Good morning, YouTube. If you live in the U.S., in case you didn't know, because you didn't go outside, or you live in Hawaii, it's very, very cold outside. It is freezing.
Yes.
It's miserable, and that's making for a miserable week with Tesla when it comes to some bad press and some other things. But speaking of miserable, April is also very miserable.
I thought you were going to just call me miserable in general.
Yes. Well, no, she's
Speaking
a
of
wonderful person to
miserable.
be around, but she's very miserable in the cold. Hence, April has gone electric. You can see her vest is glowing right here.
I love it. There's different settings too. Low, medium, high, heat.
Ooh.
I might start smoking in a minute.
I'll take the high setting here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need one of these, especially if you have a Tesla, because on the highway, the battery might completely drain and you'll be freezing cold in a blizzard, so make sure you get yourself a heated
Well,
vest.
that is the topic of today's video. So how long does your heated vest battery last?
On low, I would say about 6 to 7 hours, and on high, probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours.
So with Teslas,
Right.
cold weather can affect performance a lot.
Can I ask you first, because you pronounce it so Elon, like
Tesla.
Tesla.
and then, you know, Americans are like Tesla. And like,
The Tesla.
how are you supposed to say it?
Whatever you
What's the correct
want.
way? But
Yes.
Elon says Tesla.
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 So,
Yes.
so we're going to be cool like Elon.
I say it like Elon.
Okay.
But it's a well-known fact that electric cars, the range can be affected a lot in the cold, especially if you don't have a garage and you don't precondition your battery. And for some reason, a very, very viral story in Chicago right now, your hometown, is all the dead Teslas. And it's a combination of the extreme cold. We're talking -10. Are you getting a little hot in here?
It's hot in here. As far as all the lighting and everything. Yeah, sorry.
All right, sorry, I'm distracted. The extreme cold in Chicago affecting the supercharging network of Tesla in Chicago. Not only that, but people are not preconditioning their batteries to charge, so they're taking much longer to charge, so that leads to a very long wait. So it's like the perfect storm this winter in Chicago. There's a lot more EVs on the road from before. I think they mentioned it went from like 10,000 to 90,000 EVs in the county. Was it called of Chicago? Cook County?
Cook County.
Okay, See, I'm learning things because of the Chicago in here.
That's right.
So a massive influx of Teslas. On top of that, the strained charging network that already has a lot of cars coming in, a lot of them broke in the extreme cold. And then the cars themselves, people don't know, so they're not prepared,
Right.
and they don't have it ready to go to charge. So when they're not warmed up, the batteries are preconditioned, it takes 2 or 3 times as long to charge the cars. So the chargers that are working, the cars are sitting there longer. And since there's worse performance in the cold and people procrastinate, something I'm famous for, they're waiting in line and they're breaking. They're breaking down. They're running out of battery and the cars are stuck. So now at all these Tesla supercharger stations are fleets of dead Teslas.
Right. Well, you're talking about like pre-charging or preconditioning your battery. What is that?
So you hit a button that sends extra power into the battery to keep it warmer and warm it up even more than normal to enable faster charging. So you want the battery to be at full heat to charge the car quicker. And a lot of people don't know that. And same with if the car's sitting outside. You hit a button and it'll warm up the battery. So a lot of people are reporting at work, just going to work in the sub-zero temperature, just sitting in the cold because the battery has to protect itself and it uses some power to take the charge out. They'll lose 20 or 30 miles of range just in an 8-hour workday of the car staying in the parking lot trying to keep itself warm enough. Because if the battery gets too cold, it could cause damage to the batteries.
Right. Well, that's exactly what happened to a friend of mine. Actually, she was on her way to a business meeting, low charge, running late, sitting at the business meeting. She's like, okay, I'll have just enough charge to get back home. But the problem was her car was sitting outside in the cold, which then drained the rest of her battery. She programmed in to see if there were any charging stations close by. Her Tesla told her, hey, you're not going to make it, which is a nice feature to tell you, like, you're never going to make it with the cold air, you know, drain the battery. Now, this was an early Tesla.
Okay, so the supercharger network was not there yet as far as it being on every corner and all the aftermarket charging stations and things. Yeah, it was a big issue for early adopters, but now I guess it's an issue when they start breaking.
Right. You know, I remember seeing, when you were showing me these clips, there's an Uber driver that his battery's completely dead. What are you going to do if that's your mode of work, like complete mode of work?
Well, now he was one of the lucky ones, I think, because he made it to the supercharger. But he was talking about how he can be out half the time Ubering because it's draining quicker and it's taking so much longer to charge. And he's saying, after this, I'm dumping my EV because I'm losing so much time when I could be making money Ubering.
Right. Going back to gas.
And now it costs money to supercharge. So early adopters of Tesla got free supercharging for life. Now you're paying to charge, and you're paying, you know, 10, 20 bucks each time or whatever. And so it's not free anymore to charge up your Tesla.
Right.
So there are a lot of downsides. This is just a perfect storm of bad press. But there's some other things knocking Tesla down right now. One being an Engineering Explained video where they show how the Tesla PR stunt of it racing a Porsche with a Porsche on a trailer was sort of rigged.
So this is a big deal, really?
So Tesla saying, or Elon Musk saying, that the Cybertruck with a trailer towing a Porsche beat the same Porsche in a quarter mile wasn't true. It was 1/8 of a mile.
Okay.
So the car would eventually have caught up, the Porsche 911, to the Cybertruck. In 1/8 of a mile, it barely beat it.
Right.
Still very impressive, like a 12-second quarter mile time in a 6,000+ pound truck. It's nuts.
But we know with all the electric cars, it's that instant acceleration that they really win on.
Right. So Tesla exaggerated their big press launch. They said they were going to have a lot more range than they actually delivered. If you want close to 500 miles, you have to pay an extra, I think, 30 grand for the range extender that goes into the truck bed, that it takes away bed space and it becomes less of a truck. And, well, other things. But people are still crazed and want them, including me.
Yeah, you're getting yours.
Just a quick update. I did put it in an order. I don't have a VIN number yet, but based on other people, it seems like I might be getting a VIN number and getting one in the next month or so, which is pretty crazy.
That would be amazing.
So I'm super excited. We're kind of hitting on Tesla right now, but still,
I don't know. I'm not mad about the cold weather Tesla battery. Like, I get it. There's some trial and error things, and we've tried battery back in the day. You know, you tried a battery charge cars back in the early 1900s, maybe even a tad before that. Didn't work. Now we're trying it again. I like that we're trying it and we're experimenting with it. And I've always said before, when we first had computers, they were massive and huge and slow. And that dial-up, remember that AOL dial-up, and it took forever.
Correct.
So there's a big learning curve.
And that's, the battery technology. It has been very much the same for a very long time. We've had lead-acid batteries starting our cars for 100 years, and they get poor performance in the cold because they're able to store energy thanks to this chemical reaction inside with the lead acid and such. And with the Teslas, it's a little more advanced because it's lithium ion, but still in the cold, that chemical reaction, those atoms spinning around can't spin as fast in the cold, and it's always going to be a problem, cold performance, until they come up with some Star Trek fusion perpetual motion thing, a warp core reactor or something like that. Whatever they come up with, but...
Well, speaking of that, there was a plasma fire in the last episode we saw, which reminds me of these lithium-ion batteries. Lighting up and igniting with the chemical reactions, spontaneously combusting.
So there's been a few videos out recently of electric cars, not Teslas this time, just spontaneously combusting in their garage of someone's home and, burning down a home or severely damaging one. But that's, there's plenty of cars, normal gasoline cars that do that. So I've had 2 cars catch on fire myself,
Like you didn't do anything to them?
I had a Ferrari burned to the ground, and then I had a 76 Lincoln that just caught on fire within 5 minutes of it getting delivered to me and coming off the truck from Las Vegas.
That's great timing for the seller.
Oh, I know.
What happened to your Ferrari?
The Ferrari, somebody else was driving it, and then the fuel line was rubbing on. It was a recall from Ferrari that never got fixed, and I waited a little too long, and fuel line busted. Burned the car to the ground.
You couldn't get it out, and it just...
I wasn't there. It was somebody else driving it. I'd shipped it out to California to a friend, and I was going to drive it for Monterey Car Weekend. It didn't make it. He drove it, and
well, it's
That
dangerous.
was a bummer.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Like, Pierce Brosnan had his Aston Martin Vanquish burned to the ground.
Who's Pierce Brosnan? Who's that?
Pierce Brosnan?
I don't know.
James Bond?
Oh, I didn't know. Tell me more. What? Okay,
Is this the new Adam Driver? Is this of the 90s here? So he was given a Vanquish
Right.
It was his last Bond film where he finally drove an Aston Martin again, because before it was BMWs. The only thing left, and he posted an Instagram photo, I think, saying what an amazing car,
Yeah.
was the badge that was on the door sill saying built especially for Pierce Brosnan.
That reminds
But
me in
it
like
burned in his
Back
garage.
to the Future. Doesn't like one little plate come off when they go? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
When
the license plate came off in
license
the
plate
back,
came off
yes.
and just flipping. That reminds me
Out
of
of time.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. You got one thing left over.
So, European cars have been burning to the ground spontaneously without any, anything you would think that would incline it to do it. So it's not that unique. It's just putting out the fire of an electric car is much more involved. They have to put a blanket over it, completely starve it for oxygen because it could burn the thermal runaway in the batteries for hours, days.
Really? Okay.
Forever.
So that's dangerous.
So they have to completely put that out. It would take tens of thousands of gallons of water.
Right.
So they just have to put a blanket over it and stuff it out. Then load it onto a tow truck. And they have to follow it with the fire truck just in case it catches fire on the tow truck. Take it to the salvage yard and then put it in a special place where it can sit for days to where they know that the reaction is done before they can come take these blankets that cost thousands of dollars back to start over again. So that's the future. It's going to be a really weird thing where you get an accident and the battery's been
But then
shorted.
how do you like get rid of that after it's burned up and it's this pile of like primordial ooze that's like radioactive and gonna murder everybody?
I imagine there's still some salvageable rare metals in there.
Right.
So there might be some value there in that. But I don't know. They sell off hulks of burned down supercars and people still pay tens of thousands of dollars for them. Tavares bought his McLaren
Oh, that's a
P1
good
for
idea.
many six figures that crashed through a garage and floated out in a hurricane and sank on top of a toilet. And so there, he would try and rebuild one of those.
If your
I assume.
EV burns, just send it to Tavares.
But the demand for EVs has been lower lately. Other than the Cybertruck, which including me, everybody's losing their mind on the Cybertruck. They've been talking about this throughout automakers, scaling back. Ford has cut their Lightning, their electric pickup truck production, in half. And Tesla has been lowering prices to move some of the cars that are more common now. And they have lost $94 billion in value in 2 weeks, just in the start of 2024. Now, they've doubled, tripled. I mean, Elon Musk being the richest man in the world and it being valued several times more than General Motors, Tesla as a company makes no sense. So it makes sense for it to come back down to earth. But still, that's a lot of loss in market share in a couple of weeks for Tesla, hot on the heels of the new Cybertruck coming out.
So what is the fix? Is it you can only sell a Tesla if you live like this far away from the equator where it never snows?
No, it's just being smart about it. And Tesla does have this battery preconditioning and a very good battery heating system where other automakers like Ford don't have it. So if you're smart and planning ahead, and in European countries, some of them, it's only electric cars out there, and it's very cold up in these Nordic nations or whatever. They've got it figured out. They don't complain. It's not like national news every time there's a cold snap, like it's right now in Chicago, and everybody's losing their mind. So it's just being smart and realistic about it. And yeah, you could have gone here to here in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you just can't. So you have to be smarter about it.
So you need a winter car and a summer car.
And maybe Tesla could make sure their superchargers are working. That would be very important.
That would be helpful.
Yes. Oh,
It was getting hot and spicy.
You
but
ran out of charge.
You can turn me on. You have to do a hard press. Long press.
There we go. All right.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for watching.
It's hot.
And that was all that was left of the car. And your phone has now left the chat as well. And Neelix is petting the camera, and now it's shaking. So they exaggerated that for the press.
Oh,
Whoa.
sorry.
Ouch.
I couldn't see the glass. It's invisible. Oh.
So they exaggerated that. Oh, I need to pause because that'll be a weird. Oh, Jake's vomiting. You have to kiss it and make it better. You have to, Jake.
Ew.
Ew. Okay, sorry.